didn't. And now it's like, finding, how to deal with each other, what type of things that, like Siri know what type of shit that pissed me off, just like I know what type of shit that pissed her off, right? So then, we try to respect certain boundaries that we actually set on each other, at the same time still maintain our, like, our individuality, right? Because I think the one thing that scares a lot of people in a relationship is losing themselves, right? Losing their ability to actually be their own person, right? And then that's why, like, one of the things that I did not want to be is that one of those married men, when you look at them, when you look at their eyes, you see like there's no spirit there, everything's drained, and you hear shit like, well, you know what, happy wife, happy life. No, fuck that shit. If I'm not happy, she's not happy.
Mm.
Yo, and that's the thing. Yo, Big J, you want to get in there? I haven't talked to you for a while, man. Just, if you want to get in here and stuff like that. So I'm gonna put the link back in here.
Oh,
So,
hell yeah.
you know, we haven't had a conversation for a while. So what do you think of that perspective? I know you just got in here. Aaron Fountain, if you want to get in here as well, man, you're welcome. So yeah, it's like, relationship is not easy, right? I'm never gonna be one of those people that's just like, because I know some people are not meant to be in a relationship because it's not an easy thing. But at the same time, there are like certain. I I talk about the thing that the people complain about, and then act like, well, you are a willing participant on the issue that you bring up, but you want to make it seem like you are finding the solution, but all you want to do is complain about the problem. Big J, what up, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, Art. How you doing, Series Eyes? What's
Hey,
going on?
Big J, welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm one of the guys who I'm one of the evil guys, who's bothering the Manosphere, as they So
They just bought hurt. They'll be okay.
yeah,
You know what it feels like, right? It's like, it becomes somewhat of a cult. Like, if you deviate against the narrative, against what is the because, all right, the premise of the manosphere as a whole is been set up like, all right, this is a war against the opposite sex, right?
right,
And then it's like, okay, so this whole gender war, the premise is set on the whole gender war. And if you deviate from that premise of, like, for try to find a solution and to bring the gender war into a close, then that's when you have people that have a problem with that. But like, what do you mean? Like, you giving, you actually acknowledge, because the same way that a lot of these guys, they make a lot of valid point. Women on the other side of the spectrum also make some valid points about the guys as well. But if you actually bring that up into the conversation, now all of a sudden you are being accused of siding with the enemy. That's when you get called, a simp or this or that, as if like there is no middle ground whatsoever. It's either like you all about against women and shit like that, right? And then finding a good woman means like finding a unicorn. It's like,
You're
dude,
either all in or all out. And that seems to
yeah,
be with a lot of groups on social media.
exactly. So like, what do you think? Like, there's this huge beef against you, Big J. Like, why do you think that is?
because I had beefs because of for about 4 or 5 reasons. One of them, let's say, me and another YouTuber dated, and she was a black, she's a black woman, and that was and she was my co-host, my moderator. That was one thing. The second thing was I got tired of the same complaining shit. Black woman this, the black woman that. You know, uh, calling women bitches and hoes. All the time. Like, dude, not every woman on this planet is a bitch. Not every woman is a hoe. So stop calling all these women broads. Stop calling women don. Just calling women names and shit. And then there was that stupid ass wall talk. You know,
Yeah.
oh, you, she hit the wall. I don't know, I'm gonna talk about Reg because I see, me and Doug talk about Reg's name to be mentioned. One of my problems with Reg, the bad guy, he called one of my moderators and me and him shared a moderator, and she was a moderator on his channel. She was a co-host on my channel. He called her, she hit the wall. She hit the wall, and I'm like, dude, you are about the same age as she is, and you hit the wall too. Uh, this whole idea of if you're a woman and if you're over a certain age, you have hit the wall. Well, my thing is this: look, a lot of y'all a lot of y'all got diabetes. A lot of you men got diabetes, and y'all hit the wall.
Yep.
A lot of y'all are balding. Y'all hairline is disappearing. Oh, you hit the wall. What's the other one? Oh, some of y'all don't have no fucking teeth in your mouth, like you know who. Well, you hit the wall on that one. Some of y'all have have emotional problems. Y'all hit the wall. I mean, some of y'all have been divorced.
But Big J, don't you know men can't hit the wall?
Listen, I think
men age like fine wine; they just get better.
I think at a certain age, at a certain age, you got to get yourself with a girl that's gonna remind you to take your medicine.
Right. Right.
Making sure that you're eating healthy.
Gladys, stop reminding me to take my medicine. But Carl, I think you should take your medicine, Carl. I mean, come on.
Yep. That's enough salt for you. Your doctor said you're not supposed to have so much salt. Yep.
Let's reduce some of that. I want your ass healthy. Dude, a 25-year-old ain't gonna care about that. 25 or below ain't gonna care about that. She just want to party just like you.
Yeah.
But having a woman that's reminding you, be like, babe, yeah, I understand you feel like, look, you gotta take care of that diabetes. I'm gonna do some food for you that's a bit more healthy and all that stuff. Like what a good woman should. Right?
Wait, hold on, because when it comes to healthy food, a lot of these young girls are really into salads. Okay? So she'll be able to feed him some vegan food. So we can't say that she won't be feeding him healthy.
Now, Clyde, it's time for you to take your metformin and your insulin, Clyde.
Don't forget tomorrow you have a doctor's appointment. You better go. For your prostate checkup. Right.
That was that conversation I had with Kevin Samuels, and I wish that live stream between myself and Kevin Samuels was still in public. I think Renaissance Woman she won't release that the sound clip, but Kevin Samuels told me straight up, and this happened around like October of 2019. I said, well, Kevin, you said, how old you are, Kevin? He said 50 something. I said, okay, but you got a 19-year-old daughter. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I got a 19-year-old daughter. Yeah. Okay. I want me an 18-year-old wife. I'm like, well, dude. Okay, fine. But then though Kevin Samuels turned around and said, I don't want no dude over the age of 40 dating my 19-year-old daughter. I said, wait, time out. That didn't make any sense, Kevin.
Here's a funny thing, right? This is like, I think a lot of time when you bring up this conversation to a lot of these guys that actually have kids, you ask them things like, oh, look, why do you think whatever you think you're doing, right? How would you feel if someone doing the exact same thing to your daughter, right? Because that was also my type of clarity moment. Because to me, it was like, all right, I had to ask myself this question: would I want a guy just like me to date my daughter, right? That behaved just like me to date my daughter? And at a certain point, the answer was no, right? So I know. If, so then that's the case. Like, if I wouldn't want someone that would actually like mistreat my daughter and shit like that, then it's time for me to actually have a different perspective on life, or on differently on actually how I treat people, how I treat women. So a lot of these guys that actually talk about all these red pill shit, a lot of them are single dads. A lot of them, they have daughters. A lot of them, they like, they have this mentality, and you be asking them like, yo, bro, what if someone doing the thing that you're preaching? What if someone's doing that to your daughter? How would you feel? Yo, don't bring my kid into this, bro. It's like, it's a simple question. I'm not disrespecting your kid. I'm just asking the question, like, how would you feel if, let's say, the exact same thing is happening, they're doing this to your daughter, and they hate that because that reflects poorly upon their own behavior.
I was having a conversation with Phil Flop. I don't know. There was a white dude, a white guy named Phil.
Mm. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, what are you doing, Siri? Oh, let me move it.
I'm sorry, am I too loud?
Oh no, don't worry. I just muted
Yeah.
you. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, Phil Flop returns. He is a men's rights activist.
Mhm.
And even he is looking at the manosphere. He's like, this is a crock of shit now. It turned out to be a crock of shit because now all this is about is shit that has nothing contained about uh you know men's rights. Is mostly about
How to get
hating
laid.
women. It's most about hating women and doing some pro Donald Trump bullshit.
Yep.
It actually becomes a Donald Trump. Um,
Sphere.
I haven't heard anything about men's rights since like 2016 on these
right.
channels.
Yeah. And even Fell Flop. You know what? I seen the video. I seen the video. What you because me and him had that comment because I to me him I used to collab with him. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
used to collab with Fell Flop Returns and he sent, he's a men's rights activist. He's like, look, ever since 2015, 2016, the MRAs are just pushed to the side, and then you got the MGTOWs and the IGMORs and the SYSBM types. The red pillars, they kind of push them to the side, and they're kind of in the forefront, and all that, and all what people were talking about was drowned out, and
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all this mostly about is, oh, let me get some gain from women. Let me let me talk about the woman's hair weave. Or,
Mm.
I
I,
was
I
falsely
think.
accused of this, that, and third.
Yep. See, I think
Yeah.
that is
So
also one of your. I think that's also one of your frustration because, like, sometimes when I hear you go on your rants, right, and
right.
it's like you talking about these things because, like, you remember when the manosphere used to be about something productive. You remember when
So
it was about finding solution, right? And then you
yeah.
seen this whole transformation from finding solution to about talking about women's hair weave and stuff like that. And I understand why you're so frustrated about it.
Yep.
It's actually a mockery. Everything's a mockery of what other people built. I mean, even Barbarossa. I don't know, man. If you watch the last two videos Barbar made.
I haven't.
No, no, not yet.
Okay, back in October, Barbar released two videos called Update, and the other videos called Update Continue. He actually talked about the racism in MGTOW. He talking about ever since 2015, MGTOW changed because he saw it became a Donald Trump thing, become an alt right thing, become a racist thing. It becomes all this other shit has nothing to do with what he was doing. If you watch that, if you watch that entire video Barbar made, you understand. And Barbar was like one of, if you talk about the manosphere, Barbarossa is on the Mount Rushmore. That's how you know. Even he acknowledges that there is a problem. But when I made that video, when I made that video talking about Barbar, talking about the racism and it became a Trump thing. I got attacked by who shouting and screaming on the he's shouting in the parking lot. I ain't saying his name. You know who I'm talking about. You know,
Mm.
Big J, you Dr. Phil, I'm just like, y'all don't get it. It's not
Dude,
about changing laws. Y'all just want to complain about women because y'all have not gotten over y'all's past pain.
Changing laws is too hard for them, I think.
Yeah, thinking. Yeah, it seems like thinking is too hard. Yeah, you're right. Thinking is too hard for them because you try to explain it. Look, that's not what this is about. This is about this. No, you're a simp. Well, for? I'm talking about a video about a dude. So who the fuck am I sipping for? It means systematically idolizing mediocre pussy. So are you telling me that Barbara Rosa has a pussy and not a dick? Is that what you're telling me? It don't make any sense. So for you to
yo,
call me a simp,
some dude,
huh?
sometimes they throw insult just to throw insult. It's just that's their way of actually admitting defeat, that they don't have an intellectual argument to go against what you're saying. So they just be like, all right, here comes the name calling. It's
Right,
like, bro,
right,
who
right,
you fooling?
right. Man, we're going to form an army. Get the fuck out of here with this army shit. That's kind of like Angry Man. I got an army. Get the fuck out of here with that shit, man.
Yo,
If you really got an army, and I noticed this in the Manosphere. All these guys who think though that they're supposed to be this amazing general who's commanding the troops against the gynocracy. Well, let me tell you something. If y'all really have an actual army, a lot of y'all wouldn't be having these personal problems. Some of y'all out here making YouTube videos in the closet when y'all should be making YouTube videos in a penthouse somewhere. If y'all really
mm,
had an army, if y'all really had an army, some of y'all wouldn't be, asking for money and donations. Y'all would sit there and actually collect a check to help out your other brethren out. If y'all really had an army.
see,
I wish they stopped talking about, oh, I got me an army. Anger Man was the main one doing that shit. You know.
mm. See, I think like Jordan Peterson says, right? Like you start with making your bed, right? You start cleaning your house, because a lot of some of the conversation that actually goes when it comes to the ideology of we need to do this as a group and stuff like that, or if we don't start doing this as an individual, somehow that makes you selfish, because like, dude, you're not gonna get like an all black state like you're dreaming about. Some of the like, we need to like get our own state, pro black this, pro black that, blah blah blah, so on and so forth, right? Look, the idea sounds good, but you have to start showing leadership within your own household before you could actually be a leader of a group of people that don't even know you, right?
Right.
You know, the whole thing with the segregation and getting our own state and everything, that also you have to take a lot of things into consideration. Okay, they're separate, but are they equal? Who's funding it? Are they like I remember Big J brought up point about you talked about hospitals and how it used to, some back in the day it used to take a lot longer to get out to a hospital for a black person because they had to go to a specific one. That same issue arises, and who's going to fund them? And is it going to be equally funded? Are they going to be just as good? And if they're not going to be just as good, and then what about a lot of the mixed couples? What happens then?
Right. Right.
Mm.
Right. Well, we go into the black sector part now. I can't. No, not blacks. I mean the pro black. The conscious community types. Yeah, yeah. I have no love for them. I really don't. I got no love for them. They,
No.
they, the way that. See, they are just as bad as some of the red pillars and the MGTOW types because they don't see nuance. There are nuances in this world, and they don't want to admit that they don't want to admit though that there's such thing as nuance. If somebody crosses this one, this one thing. Hold on. Doug mentioned a name in the comment section. There's one name he mentioned, and it starts with an R. I got to go in on him. I got to go
Yeah, I
in.
don't. I was about to say I don't because I like the Black Brain Trust, and sometimes I like some of the stuff that Men of Tomorrow mentions. I haven't heard about all the other ones, but I'm not. I've heard some of the stuff that Ramil said that I. It's a little bit extreme.
No, no. I do have somewhat of a personal problem with Ramil. What he did to one woman of the past, I really didn't like. I didn't like what he did to her. And then though, outside of that, he did this whole bullshit about we need Sharia law to put black women in check. Okay, you need Sharia law to put the black woman in check. Okay, but dude, you got a porn channel.
Yeah, the men are not disciplined enough to be able to comply with Sharia law. I don't think he realizes that men have their own restrictions.
Right, right. So I'm sitting there like, well, dude, you have a porn channel. Everybody can go to X. I'm sorry, I ain't gonna mention I ain't mention the website. But all you gotta do is go over there and see him pipe down a few women without a condom, and then I'm like, well, dude, well, you say that you say that say that you want Sharia law, well, dude, what you're doing
You
on
can't
your
have sex
porn
outside of
site,
marriage.
huh? Yeah. So if you Sharia law frowns upon premarital sex. So and then though he got the gall to talk about, man, man, I want to pump and dump. I want to pump and dump. And these single mothers here are the bane of existence. I'm like, oh,
Men
okay,
under
reveal.
Sharia law can't even partake in any like substances. Like you can't drink alcohol. You can't have you can't have sex outside of marriage.
Dude, do you know how
A
strict
lot
these
of
things are?
times marriage is arranged. So oh
No,
no,
no, no.
I don't think we talk that
I want
through.
you to understand this. I want you to understand this for me about Mill. The logic is like the logic is all over the place. I mean, you want Sharia law, but yet you're doing porn videos. You
Yeah.
Yeah.
talk and you talk about single motherhood is evil and shit, but yet you're piping down women without a condom, unprotected sex with these women on these porn sites
Mm.
Mm.
or on his little porn channel he got. So and then though it came out and this could be a rumor, but he got two women he got knocked up have terminated their pregnancy. So
Ooh,
my
that's
thing is
yeah.
so so my thing is wait a minute, you can't begin on YouTube talking about we need Sharia law and we need to pump and dump these bitches and we need to do this, and I'm like, dude, you're all over the place. You know. And I'm really amazed at his fans. His fans over there going raw, raw,
So is it
yeah.
like so is it like part of the frustration or part of the issue is the hypocrisy
Mm.
Yes.
that is the major hypocrisy that actually comes with the talking point. It's like, dude, like if some okay, like I came across people of different sector in life, right? That might
Mhm.
have different belief system than I do, but I can respect what they're saying due to the fact that their action doesn't contradict their message. And that is
Right.
the issue that I have with a lot of the so-called, well, we gotta treat these women a certain type of way. We gotta have some excessive way to treat them. Okay, if you are being like from the Nation of Islam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way they, the way you see these women, they comport themselves, right? They have a very low tolerance for hoeing, right?
Right. Right.
And you see also they might be pro-black, whatever, stuff like that, right? But it shows in their action versus those who are actually doing like a whole bunch of stuff that is detrimental to the black community, which they claim that they want to save, and that doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
any sense to me.
Yeah. I'll be scratching my head at him like, dude, but yesterday you said this, but now today today you saying that. I mean, it's the opposite. That's like saying, I'm the bishop of the Roman Catholic Church, but yet though uh I'm fucking the nuns at night. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Which they were.
I'm supposed to be chaste, right? I'm supposed to be chaste. So if I'm supposed to take a vow of chastity, then then why is my dick wet? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's
Listen, all I know is that true leaderships mean that you have to lead by example. Doesn't mean that you are without fault, but your example shows why you think like so many people were against Derek Jackson, right? And
yeah.
like if he was actually really practicing what he preached, like I wouldn't have any problem with him. But we all know from the start, like, yo, this motherfucker's full of shit. And it was only about time till he was like, the truth actually came out, because you can only hide certain things for so long,
Right, right,
right? And it's the same thing with a lot of like some of the talking point that is being changed. Like, okay, how can you be so-called pro-black, but all the things that you are doing is a detrimental to the black community? The pump and dump is detrimental to the black community. Some of the things that you preaching is detrimental to the black community. You know,
right. Right.
so
Here is another one. Oh, black woman ain't shit. The black woman, she's tearing up the black community. Oh, allow me to drive from Virginia all down to Georgia, an 8-hour trip to have sex with another YouTuber. Like a Mr. Fantastic. You making all these videos about how bad the black woman is, but soon you saw a black female YouTuber. You want man, I gotta have a piece of that. I gotta have a piece of that ass. So if I see her, I'll try to hit it my damn self. But the thing is, you gonna drive 8 hours, and he actually recorded his 8-hour trip on live stream. I mean,
oh
I'm just
wow.
driving, y'all. I'm just driving. Yeah. Yo, you went from Virginia. Hold on. Doug said that rumor was debunked. Sean admitted that was a lie. Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. Well, never mind. If that was okay. It was a rumor. Okay. I'll take that back. But here's the thing: how can that same individual can sit there talking about, well, I hate women, black women like to put the black man on child support. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, but dude, you have a baby mama, dude, and you raw dog. You blame your baby mama for not taking the birth control pill, but
Like,
yet you are complaining about the child support system. You actually blaming your woman, your baby mama put you on child support with Negro. Even though she didn't take the pill, well, you should have been responsible for putting on when you didn't put on no condom on.
let me ask you something. When do you think that the line is crossed from criticism to bashing?
I think that line has already crossed. Or
Hey, hey,
that line.
hey,
Um,
what's going on, Expo?
Oh, hey. Yeah, I normally don't do this, but I got some time to spare. I won't be here for too long.
Hey, no problem.
uh-oh,
Welcome to my channel, man.
No, notice now. Notice what's going to happen. Somewhere, a guy who had duct tape on the chair said, see that right there, Big J. He's working with Aaron Fountain, y'all. He's working with him. Yeah,
You know what, Big J, at some point you just gotta say fuck them. But listen, you guys, I'll be right back. I just have to switch appliances because my tablet's about to die.
Oh yeah, no problem. All right, yeah, jump back in when you get a chance. All right, so welcome to the channel, Expo. Aaron, what's going on? Everything good?
Yeah, nothing much. Semester's about to end. I'm just thinking about taking a trip, whether to visit family in the South or rent a car and drive across the country because I just been stuck here for over a year and I just need to explore.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so all three. So we're pretty much I guess we can be considered like the critics of the Manosphere.
But you have that crazy white boy calling us the anti-Manosphere. You're that crazy white boy. We ain't saying his name either.
All right, so then like now I'm trying to like figure it out. Like, okay, so what are the differences and the similarities that we have? Like we have the three of us. Like where do we differ? Where do we differentiate from each other?
I don't know. That's kind of good. I guess one thing, I've never been part of the Manosphere or even like kind of congregated in a circle. So I know I'm a complete outsider from that perspective. So I know some people are a little bit hostile to an external individual coming in and critiquing the community and not fully interacting or engaging with it. So I know that's one difference. I think my criticisms are pretty moderate, to be totally honest. But some people think I'm actually a far leftist just because of my critiques of the space.
No, I see you more of like you more like a center leftist than you.
That's actually pretty accurate. I do see myself as like center left.
Yeah, because I think I'm more center right, right. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know where Big J fall onto that line when it comes to let's say politics.
Somewhat, I'll say somewhat more libertarian. Not I wouldn't say libertarian. That I'll say somewhere in the middle. I'll just say in the center. I'll just leave it at that.
Like, so why is that? Like, people that may have different ideology, why is it so difficult to actually have a conversation that is based on good faith and not like yelling and screaming at each other, stuff like that, in order to try to outshout someone out of their opinion?
It's tribalism. It's kind of like some of Jelani Cobb's professor at Columbia University said on Bill Maher, we live in an era where we feel that our opinions should be valued simply because they are our opinions rather than basing them off factual data. That's kind of how I see it, though. Everybody wants to be right. Nobody can admit to being wrong. And not to mention just depolarization. I mean, we live in a society where you can silo yourself into your worldview on social media. It's pretty easy to do so.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, because like it feels like there is a censorship going on, right? There's a level of censorship is going on. Granted, some of it is warranted, right? Because you have some of these things that get so extreme, it's like you have to get rid of it. But it's like, but when you actually cut off the political aspect or any type of conversation that actually bring about solution rather than more division, it seems like it's getting harder and harder to do.
No, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, like, what would you say about that, BJ?
Well. Let me be a little more harsher. I gotta be harsher because I got me and you we have the same critic or detractor making videos yelling and screaming at us. Anyway, like him, he's the type of person that believes that his group, his philosophy, and I'm not just talking about him, I'm talking about all other people. They believe though that is their only thing they got. They kind of like that movie Officer in a Gentleman. You remember that movie where Richard Gere was yelling at what's that Louis Gossett Jr. talking about, this is all I know, this is all I have. That's all they have. The Manosphere and MGTOW and Red Pill and all that, that's all they have. That's all they got. Anything else is second. So it's like a wet blanket. It's a blanket. It's a blanket. It's their security blanket. They don't want to let go. They're still stuck. You still got men who are 30, 5 and up, still trying to be like Linus on Charlie Brown, Linus, whatever his name is, still still hugging on that security blanket when they're past that phase in life. I mean, I keep on saying, look, how many times though, I tell people, look, you're too old to be on the red pill.
See,
That red pill stuff. If you like 20 something, see when I was on the red pill, I was like 26, 27, 28 when I
yeah.
was on the red pill. I grew out of that shit. When I turned 32 years old, I grew out of that.
But see,
So
like, I think the issue is that, like, I think a lot of people, they use these talking points, right? These platform as a shield to hide behind, to hide their personality, some of their egregious flaws. About So it's like, okay, I'm a red pill now, so I'm free of criticism of whatever I say because it falls under the banner of red pillism.
right,
Or,
right.
I'm pro-black. It falls. Everything I say should be correct because I'm part of the pro-black group and all that crap. And it's like, dude, that's why, like, wherever someone, whatever the flags you fly, right, whatever you call yourself or you fly under, I try to address their perspective as individual instead of as a whole group. Right. And one of the things that I like about Expose the Manosphere channel is similar to Kim's as well, is like the fact that you're using the whatever they're saying, right? Because a lot of time, like, Expose the Manosphere don't have to say anything. Like, he just, like, let it play out, just use a little clip of what they're saying.
Yeah,
and just let it play.
and you got this dude, I forgot his name now, Marcos, whatever his name is, talking about, that's slander. That's slander what Aaron did. I'm like, well, dude.
I don't even know if the guy knows what the definition of slander is.
Yeah, don't even know what the definition of slander. I'm like, dude, if you know what slander is, slander has to be something that came out of his mouth. So if he didn't say anything, if he didn't write anything, if he didn't produce anything that's of his own free will, that's not slander, because that's somebody else's word.
I got a question for you, Expo. So, why did you take the route of satire for your channel?
So yeah, it plays off. Do you know the YouTube channel called Right Wing Watch?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you watch my first videos on my old channel, that's what I was playing off of. I'm like, okay, I just want to play like clips from them, make it a little funny. I don't want to just like straight through it and not like, not make it entertaining. And originally I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, no, I'm just going to let them talk. Just because whenever I was telling people like, no, this is stuff I heard and I'm directly quoting them, I don't know, some people just didn't believe it actually. And not to mention, it was an extension from the blog. Originally I was trying to just like promote the blog more, but then I realized I like doing videos more, and it was actually too time consuming, so I kind of ended the blog and started on the videos. And most of my videos came directly from blog posts, so I wasn't saying anything I haven't written down yet.
Okay, so you just pretty much put it in video format.
Yeah, that's all it was. That's why it was weird to me if you say taken out of context. I'm like, dude, on my blog, I gave timestamps.
Dude, like, so then the amount of, because like, I remember video editing takes a long time.
Yes.
It's very exhausting sometimes, and because of what the thing I do, like, I can be a troll, right? I love being a troll is addictive because once I start, it's very hard for me to put it down. So, because I remember not too long ago, I actually did a video responding to, to certain individual, and that video got taken down. And actually, like, I realized how much fun it is to actually make troll videos. And I'm like, if I take that route, it's gonna be very hard for me to have those conversations that we're having right now because I love trolling, but at the same time, I also love having intellectual conversation.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't really like throwing videos.
Yeah, there's some ideas I wanted to do, but I'm just like, no, people wouldn't take the channel seriously. And also I deal with copyright strikes because there was a video I made in Solo TV where I kind of parodied Justice League. I wanted to do another scene, but Warner Brothers blocked the entire clip. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that anyway.
So how do you deal with them trolls that be coming at you? Like, how do you deal with them? Like, you seem to be like very nonchalant about them.
A lot of that. I think a lot of that is because I'm in a career field where you're always criticized. Of course, not in this kind of manner. I don't mean people don't name call or whatnot. So no, it doesn't really bother me because I kind of, I've been dealing with this for like 2 years. So the trolls are pretty predictable. They rarely say anything original. So in fact, I'm actually kind of bored.
Yep. That's what I was about to say. It's always the same things, right?
Yeah, you're a stalker, you're a suspect, you're a simp, you're a clout chaser. Just
So all right, so now Big J, like how do you deal with trolls yourself? Big J.
Say
Like okay,
that again.
what is the approach that I usually take on with trolls, and are these approach that you take on with trolls, are they actually working? Are they like, do you have the desired effect that you want, or is it like, how do you deal with troll yourself?
Well, let me say it like this. I put my trolls in different categories, right? You got some troll like me. You have the same person who hate the both of us, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just ignore him. I just like, he make a video about us. He's screaming and yelling at a park. I'll just ignore him. He just want views. If it's somebody like who just come on a panel on a panel one day, I have a conversation. Another trolls, I'll just sit there and say, hey, you blocked. Goodbye. They're like I put them in three different categories.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Doug. Yeah, I will cuss out a troll. I did that last night. I did that last night on my panel, and also did that on Maurice Delk's channel.
I gotta admit, yo, like watching you going off on a rant about some of the stupidity of the people that you're addressing is very entertaining.
Yeah.
How about you, Siri? How do you deal with troll?
I starve them for the most part, or at least I try to. I don't really have to deal with trolls that much, to be honest. I personally don't have a channel, so right. I try to starve them and ignore them for the most part. Sometimes they follow me on other people's channels and start a conversation, which is hilarious.
And they're keeping you of stalking.
I used to try and actually have a conversation with these people, in a regular conversation where I think, I'm trying to explain my stance. And when they say something is like, no, you misunderstand, this is the case. And then I realize they just get stuck in a logic loop and they're playing a game. They don't care.
Yeah,
I just don't pay attention to them.
Yeah. See, a lot of time though, it's like, look, I usually say this, right? In order to have a conversation with someone, it has to be about, and it has to have a premise of good faith, right? So, for instance, like, okay, let's say me and Expose the Manosphere, right? We may have a different, we may have differences politically, right? I'm center right, he's center left. But at the same time, I know if me and him we having a conversation, there's gonna be a lot of things that I might learn from him, and there might be some things that he might learn from me. Even though we both might come out of the conversation still having the same perspective, but I would have a better understanding of where he's coming from. But when you're dealing with someone that's like their whole premise is about like try to shut you down, right? Yell at you, scream at you, and no matter what the hell you say is gonna be twisted into some sort of weird premise to actually fit their own narrative, then how it's a waste of time to even try to talk with that person.
Yeah, well, I'll say there are some trolls I like, though. I'll be honest. Like, I love going back and forth with Solo TV. It was freaking hilarious.
Listen, I will say there was a clip of Solo TV going off, and there is Little Willie was in the panel, and the Solo TV was going off on him. I can understand where Solo's coming from, but because Willie likes to gaslight so hard that you kind of have to go off on this asshole.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, I get why he was going off.
I can cuss that nigga out all the time. I cuss his ass out all the time. I look at his profile picture. I said, dude, you looking stupid having a woman. I'm like, dude, okay.
Oh, I know where that picture comes from.
Yeah.
Where
So,
is that picture?
You know where that picture comes from.
No, so because I quote unquote infiltrated the SYSBM WhatsApp group and he was in it. He would share photographs and even videos of him sleeping with sex workers in Mexico. So yeah.
I don't think there's a single person in this panel today that has not had him like try and send
his prosties
and video of his prosties.
Nah, he just uploaded them. That's why I noticed who he was. Oh, that's from Mexico.
Dude, check this out, right? Listen.
Colombia.
Before I blocked him, this dude used to sent me messages on not on WhatsApp, on Facebook all the time about his process and all that. Dude, bro, I'm not asking you for none of that stuff. What's going on?
He would just flood him. If Art didn't respond for the day, he would just flood his messages.
That's my problem with YouTube. You got these guys on here who keep hounding, and then YouTube won't do a goddamn thing to them and shit. And then they get all mad. Oh, Big J is being a bully. Yes, I am being a bully because you went too far. And it's kind of like TB Willie talking about, well, Art the knock on Series eyes. I'm gonna talk about their marriage. I'm like, dude, when he came on my channel talking about y'all's two's marriage, I was like, dude, get the fuck off my channel before I actually do something to you. God really don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? You call yourself you're going your own way. You say though you're a MGTOW,
but you won't leave. Yep.
Yeah, but yet why are you worried about what a woman and a man's doing when you're supposed to be going your own way? Yep. You're supposed to and have these stupid ass pictures of him, of his fucking face looking all stupid with a woman's ass, pointed at the camera and shit. I'm like, dude, that's supposed to be something to be proud of or some shit. Oh, I got a lot of ass over my face.
Stuff, yeah. But listen, YouTube won't really do much with people like that because these guys, they know what they're doing. They're careful to not. That's why I said they like to gaslight. They don't say too much to get themselves reported, or if someone reports them for harassment, YouTube will look at them and it's like YouTube gets their comment out of context. It's like, I don't really see anything bad there, so they won't.
Well, I mean, they also play on the good faith of the individual that they are attacking because, for the most part, a lot of people, they don't like reporting other people's channel, right? There's this code of conduct amongst YouTubers. Be like, you know what? I don't want to flag other people. I don't want to report their channel and stuff like that. You do you, I do me. Just leave me alone, right?
Yep.
But so then they get to play on that. They get to play on that premise, just so they can actually. And then once you block them, they be like, you know what? He couldn't handle the heat. That's why he had to block me.
Right.
That's the gaslight. So all right, now I got a question for you, Expo. Right. So, what do you study in school? Like, what is your profession?
Well, it's a doctorate in history and making a career transition, higher education administration.
Okay, so you take a more of an analytic approach for the thing that you actually do. So why is the Manosphere was like a perfect test subject for you?
So if you look at my writings, which I've been writing since 2016, just gonna drink some water quick.
All right.
Yeah, so I've been writing since 2016, and I started because I wanted to write about topics that I was interested in that had nothing to do with my dissertation topic. Academic writing can get kind of boring and tedious. Yep. It takes over a year for something to get published. I read about mostly African American Latino relations, because I grew up in a predominantly Puerto Rican community, high school student activism, which is actually related to my dissertation, but I'll talk about it in the contemporary period. And when it came to the manosphere, I came across it merely by accident. And at first I wasn't going to do it because it was kind of just out of my wheelhouse. I'm like, well, I don't really focus on like gender. I do focus on race, but gender is just not in my wheelhouse. But like I said, when I first came across it, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just dudes who had, politically incorrect opinions, but were just venting about relationships. That's what I thought at first. But the more I listened to it, I'm like, no, there's something more, insidious going on, especially with young men getting like radicalized by the message.
Right, something very sinister. Yep.
Yeah, and I realized it's a rabbit hole. I'm like, you can come across somebody who might talk about business or physical fitness one day, but the next day they're just going some like very radical message. I see that all the time, actually. Yeah. So when I saw, I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe journalists haven't written about this. Well, they've written about the manosphere, and
so you find yourself a gold mine.
Oh yeah, so if you look at all my writings, I'm always like observing the field, but then like going left, like, okay, people are looking at it this way, but let me look at it this way. So I saw there were articles on incels and a larger manosphere, but there was nothing on like race, which to me just shocked me, because I'm like, if you look at incel community, this race is omnipresent throughout that entire online community. So yeah, that's pretty much what led there. Actually, like I said, I came across it in June 2018, but I didn't write anything about it until December of that year. But like I said, I wasn't trying to write something about it when I first came across it.
So then what were like some of the biggest threat that you actually ever received online?
Well, one guy in a suburb of Ann Arbor, Michigan, saying that he would like travel down here. He has nothing to lose. I know on his blog, he has like photographs of police getting killed and whatnot. It's kind of crazy. I guess because of where I live too, I don't get a lot of threats, because I mean, Bloomington is just a small college town. There's no major highways, so I don't think anybody want to go out of their way to come to a small college town.
Yeah, I don't understand this weird, like, I know last summer I think last summer there was a big moment of doxing people. And then coming to, like, people were going to other people's houses, sending police to there. I don't understand that part of YouTube.
Oh, when it gets that serious?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have that lady Peaches, like, breaking into this young 16-year-old YouTuber's house, sniffing her clothes. It's really weird. It's really
that's kind of bizarre. No, I never had, even though my identity is out there, and partly because I'm used to being a public figure. I just never worried about that. Maybe I'm being naive because I don't really take YouTube that seriously, but I know some people do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the thing though. Like, and I think which is it's kind of hilarious that now that quote unquote I'm homeless, so there is the possibility of actually me being doxxed for where I live and stuff like that. It's actually now slim to none. And even after I get my property and stuff like that, that is a shtick that is gonna be continuously, so I don't have to worry about, like, let's say people doxing where I live and all that stuff
because they
on
try
the road all the time.
They try.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
have been people that have literally tried finding out information about art.
Oh, wow. I mean, what do they plan to do with it? I'm kind of curious.
But that's the question, right? Because I'll probably try and contact his employer, this and that, like the usual stuff. I just don't understand why.
That's kind of weird. Nobody ever did that to me, actually, even though there was
that's what I don't understand why.
I know I'm blaming Kim. That's my association.
It is your association with Kim, actually, yeah.
But I'm curious, how does that work exactly? Contacting employers, like would the employer care?
This is what they do. They take your voice. They say, "Oh, this person harassed me." They tell your employer, "Look, this guy's harassed you. You talk to your employee. If you stop making videos, then we're going to seek legal action. That'll rig and remove stuff."
Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I was always confused by that because I'm like, nobody ever tried to contact. Even though they would say, "I'll contact a university," which I don't really get because I'm like, you have no idea how bureaucracy works. But oh well.
Or worse, what they did to Taz and Nyla, his wife Nyla. I mean, going after the children of said content creator.
Hmm.
Or parents of said content creator. I see what they did. They did Taz and Nine. That's why they're so, let's say, um, very, very combative right now,
Hmm.
because of their because what the Manosphere have done to them. And yes, it was the Manosphere that done.
Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I always wondered. I've been observing this space for 3 years, and I just haven't had anybody try to go that far yet.
Mm.
Um,
Well, I mean, I think here are some of the benefits, right? I think because you the work that you do, right, and then also your politics is also somewhat left leaning, and then I think like liberalism are more in control of the should I say the field that you're in right now, the education and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So then you have think there's less of a chance for you to actually for the people that is trying to ask for your firing to be possible, right? Because especially when these same people are also claiming to be conservative.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
some of my professors, they know about my work and they don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
Like, so I'm
exactly.
like,
So
Well,
now,
some people's employers don't. Some people's employers do. You know,
yeah. I know
exactly.
it
It depends
depends
on
too.
it
they're
depends
definitely
on.
not the same. We're definitely in different times. Like back in the day, we'd have yellow pages, and everybody would have, their addresses and their information posted in the yellow pages. Nowadays, it's not the same. You have to be careful where you don't want people to see your house, things and such, because there are stalkers. There are online stalkers that can actually become real life stalkers. And the
Oh
police
yeah.
can't really do much to prevent it, you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, YouTubers will tell you, especially the bigger you get, the more at risk you are.
Oh
To be
yeah, true. Yeah, then again, I'm ending the channel like mid. Well, I'm still going to keep it up, but I'm just not going to really do work on this channel at all by the summer, sometime in the summer. I'm not exactly sure when.
Gotcha. All right, but all right, now time for like a real quick conversation. I think it's might be quite serious. What is your perspective on, let's say, pro-black or Black Lives Matter or defund the police? Like, what is like? Where is your stand on that? What do you guys think?
On that's three broad topics.
I know. So I guess like which one you want to pick up at first? Let's say pro-black. Let's start with pro-black.
Okay. I don't listen to a whole lot of pro-black content. Like, because when I hear pro-black, I think of Afrocentrism, which I was introduced to in high school by my math teacher. And I kind of like followed it, but then when I bought some books and read them, I'm like, man, there's like no bibliography or footnote stuff in this, footnote pages in this book. So I kind of like walked away from it. Not to mention, like I said, I grew up around Puerto Rican, so I wasn't really introduced to a whole lot of pro-black dialogue growing up.
Okay. But you said that you actually part of your studies has to do with more on race than it was on the gender stuff.
Part of it, yeah, part race played the bigger factor in my research in gender.
Okay, so then based on your research and so then what is your stance, or let's say what's going on in Black America, and where does it go? Is it like systematic? Where do you believe in? Let's say what is your stand on critical race theory?
Oh, okay, that's good. Even I don't study critical race theory. No, I'm definitely a structuralist. I know a lot of people in this space are individualists and kind of blame it on like cultural factors. I'm not going to say that those aren't issues, but if you talk about the disadvantage that African Americans face today, a lot of that is structured by history, from policies implemented by the federal, state, and local government, private actions, and also from private institutions like real estate companies, etc.
Okay. So then, like, how, in what ways you think that we could actually able to combat some of these hurdles to actually
That's
make us
really
more
difficult.
prosperous?
That's really difficult because a lot of issues I cited, well, briefly, are intractable. So they're really issues that literally can't be overturned by policy, or something that can overturn like in 10 years. Like, for example, 51% of African Americans who are born poor remain poor. I don't have any solutions on how to fix that, but I know that's something that can't be fixed in just with a snap of a finger.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where I think where I talk about the cultural aspect of it, right? Let's say the if let's say two-parent household, right, or family structure is one of the main way that people get out of the poverty, for upward mobility and stuff like that, right? And then, but we have a culture that is dead set on, being anti-family, that actually preach the pump and dump and all that stuff, So that is like, part of it is cultural, right? And then that's where actually, when I talk about that, because like one of the ways to get out of that for upward mobility has to do with family, despite the fact that the marriage, the negative connotation on marriage and stuff like that. Marriage is helps people get out of poverty in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I know in sociology there was a culture of poverty dialogue, and that was pretty dominant for several years. But then, like I would say, probably like 10 years ago, people kind of backed away from it because they thought it was a little too like culturally or racially biased. But now you are starting to see some more like right wing or even center left sociologists resurrect the culture of poverty argument. I'm not really aware. I'm not really like, I don't read a whole lot in that scholarship. I agree with some of the aspects, but I don't agree with everything actually, because I'm definitely in the middle when it comes to, culture versus like structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Hold on, Art. Hold on. Let's give Big J a chance to answer some of those questions as well.
I kind of like what I'm kind of like on like what Aaron is on. I do believe in this. There is a structure in place in some parts of within some parts of society that does keep down, or that, well, not keep down, that hinders a particular group's um um upward mobility. I do believe that, because you look at, okay, like, let's use the spending levels between education versus spending levels on criminal justice. I mean, if you go, I'm gonna use Texas, right? You know, $4,000 is spent on one student, right? But
Yep.
if you go to a prison, into the criminal justice sector, one inmate, the amount of money that's spent on an inmate is 70,000, 70K. So you have to, and it's usually the red states. If you go from Texas to Florida, it's basically the same level. You see, the education levels are. I mean, the money spent on education is lower than that of the northern states, and also, these are the same states though that had slavery. So, you kind of looking at, and most of those prisons are populated by black people. So there is a structure in place that hinders growth. Now, is there individuals choices that put people in there? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. But at the same time, you can't when hold on. If you created a society that's if you create desperation within a certain location, people are going to do desperate things, like stealing, like selling drugs. A lot of people don't want to sell drugs. They did it because they're broke. They did it because their mama, you know, they're out, they out there living in a one bedroom apartment, all of that stuff. They live in a
See,
project. So you
yeah.
have to put that into consideration.
I mean, like I agree with you partially on that sense, right? When it comes to the poverty actually drive people into committing some of these crimes. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from a person that comes from a very, very dirt poor country, right? And then when I come over here, what we actually call poverty here in the States is like luxury in Haiti, right? And the amount of opportunity. So granted, there was the level of discrimination that happened, let's say 20 years ago, right? Or
Mhm.
even let's say 10 years ago. is a lot less, where I don't think people needs to sell drugs anymore in order to actually be able to feed your family, right? There are so many ways to hustle legally, anything from getting a trade to even driving Uber or doing certain things. And I think this is where the aspect is more related to culture than it is, like, granted, right? I see it this way. Are there obstacles to actually makes it even harder for Black people to succeed? Yes. But learning about these obstacles and find ways to avoid it, I think, is better off than to just actually like see it as in, like, because it's like, okay, so if the obstacles has to do with, okay, being single mom, right? Raises the chances of that child to go to prison, to to not graduate, to not get certain degrees and stuff like that, right? So then, therefore, I think it is in our best interest to start working on breaking that cycle of the damage that happened to us, like, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That's where I'm coming from when I actually talk about my subject. Would you guys disagree with it, or is there like some validity to what I'm saying, or no?
Yeah, there's some validity, but I think the social capital plays a huge role. So, even though there are other options outside of like a drug trade. So, for example, take North Philadelphia. So, Philadelphia was a city where many African Americans from the South, and including Puerto Ricans from the island of Puerto Rico, migrated to during World War II for like factory jobs. But when those jobs, went down south or overseas, I don't know if you've ever been to Philadelphia. It's pretty like run down. So, I grew up 45 minutes away, and I say I hate visiting the city, but I go there for research purposes. So when those jobs went away, it literally created a vacuum, and what took it was literally the drug market. And one of the reasons why it was so appealing to a lot of people in the community was because of the amount of money you can make in such a short period of time. And there's actually an interesting BBC article by Louis Durax about crime in Philadelphia, where he focused on the north side of Philadelphia and the drug trade, and showed how much money people literally are accumulating just in like 1 week, sometimes $3,000 in a few days or whatnot.
Didn't Philadelphia create sections of the city where you can sell drugs without like the police really pestering you too much?
I'm not aware of that, but sometimes police officers won't go after like the big drug dealers because they don't want to create like a turf war. Because it's kind of sad, but a lot of times the drug kingpins like literally create a sense of stability in some of those communities. No, they really do. Like they literally stop.
I think from all the history I've learned about Haiti, this actually makes sense to me.
Yeah. So that does happen. They know who's doing what, but sometimes you don't want more chaos to ensue if you lock up a certain individual. So I gave that example because I'm like, well, yeah, there are other options, but you say Uber, well, for one, you got to own a car. Trade, you still got to finish high school. To my knowledge, I think you still have to finish high school, right? And it still costs money to go to trade school, if I'm correct. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't go that route.
No, with trade school,
you don't
basically,
high school, but you do have to finish the courses.
With trade school, it's more like let's say you find a company, you actually become you become an apprentice for that company, so like that, and then some of companies even pay your trade school for you. Some of the qualifications, some of the not qualification. Yeah, some of the qualifications are like that. Yeah, certifications, they actually even pay for you, like your OSHA 10.
I do also know that I'm not sure if it was North Carolina or Pennsylvania, but one of those two states does also offer trade courses to juveniles. People kids who have been in the juvenile system, justice system. They have programs that offer them. I know because one of a Facebook friend of mine actually went through an electrician course for that.
But see, here's the funny thing, right? Because a lot of programs, especially in the blue states, right, have been created in order to actually benefit minorities. But it's either like those who actually get into those programs are shamed into dropping out of it because that's when you you looked upon as like a Sambo or like a coon or whatever the nickname. It's not cool. Right. So then what tends to happen is like the people that end up using these programs that are actually catered for African Americans happens to be islanders like myself. People like from the Caribbean or other third world countries that come through and actually take advantage of those system that has been put in place that would actually supposed to benefit African American primarily.
I also think there is a bit of a jump where there are those programs that can teach you the trade, but there is nothing in between you learning the trade and you working the trade where they connect you with people in the trade to actually get a job there. And I think that part is missing.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely got to start on the bottom, right? Because, like, let's say if you start off in construction as a like a laborer, right?
Yeah.
And then you might get paid, like, let's say $14 an hour, $15 an hour, right? And it's very hard work, it's very hard labor. But while you're in there, you actually get to make so many connections with the carpenters, with the roofers, and so on and so forth. And then by being there, by being in that vicinity,
yeah, but the program would have to offer you that spot. And the issue that my friend had that I mentioned, the electrician, is he ended up not being in the electrician trade in the electrical field because he didn't have a car to actually get him to work.
Yeah, that plays a huge role, because some of these jobs, it's like, job site, you have to travel, quite a distance to get.
Yeah, and there was nobody else in his neighborhood that actually like worked with him, so he couldn't even like carpool or anything like that,
Yeah.
Big J, you can jump in the conversation anytime.
Yeah, well, those are good points too. I know there's people in the Manosphere who was in the trades, like Obsidian went straight to the workforce right after high school, but then he had a career-ending injury that broke his back, so he had to retire early.
Yeah. Well, then Doug says, Art, it's not that people won't take advantage of those programs because they're worried about being called a symbol. Most Americans men aren't aware of these problems. All right, that's a valid point, Doug.
These programs, I think, if I'm not mistaken,
these programs, because they worry about.
No, I mean they aren't aware of these programs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. No. So, but see, this is why a space like the Manosphere would have been the perfect platform to speak on these opportunities. There are so many things that we could actually learn from each other, right? Anything, whether it's talking about IT from tech, from G Lowry, talking about IT, or from Erica Williams talking about some of the business opportunity. Dude, like, I didn't know anything about, let's say, some of the stock market stuff. Once I became interested, I learned a lot from her stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even Ramil, when we talked about him, some of the stuff that he says is extreme, but doesn't he have real estate videos?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So I think the issue that occurs, like, it almost feels like in order to get the attention of this particular target demographic that we're looking for, we have to dangle the carrot of pussy talk in front of them.
Part of that is really just how the Manosphere formed, because it's really about men's issues, especially when it comes to child custody, marriage and whatnot. And most people who enter the space, I'll be honest, I never encounter anybody who entered the space to strictly learn about like real estate or tech, and it was always about relationships. I just never seen that till this day. So, and I would say, when you come to YouTube, people subscribe to a channel for a particular reason, and they're there for relationships. They're not going to be that interested in other topics such as business or real estate or whatever. And I do the same thing in channels I subscribe to. I subscribe to a channel that does movie reviews. I don't watch the videos when they review a movie that I didn't watch or don't care to see.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What's your perspective, Big J?
Yeah. The thing is, there are only few people who won't talk about stuff, but they're most people are there for their to drown out their personal baggage, their personal problems with females, gender. That's mostly that they talk about. So, like we have people like G Lowry. I'm gonna say this right now. G Lowry should have been the leader of the Manosphere, if you ask me, because at least he's trying to give people jobs, trying to break jobs, So he's not talking about.
I like G Lowry.
Yeah,
just scared.
Right. Right. He's not doing this. Well, at prom in 1986, I couldn't do date. At least G Lowry trying to get people jobs. And, I actually laughed at his community tech posts. You show pictures of Cynthia G or Taz or somebody and said, instead of you arguing with Cynthia G, here is my
Let come learn IT.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can learn IT at G Lowry. You know, I mean, I laugh at that shit. That shit's funny to me. You know.
Well, I mean, I think part of it has to do with like I think as Expose says, like we come to this space to be entertained. We love the beef. We love hearing about some of the crazy stuff that's going on. And to us, as like, we come to the manosphere to actually escape whatever the problem that we have. But it
Mm.
becomes like the escapism. But once you turn off that computer, you still have the same problem.
Yeah, true. I was going to add some of the job thing. While I do like some of the dialogue they have, I do dislike when they talk down on other professions. Like really, like I rarely see anybody talk highly about like going into the education profession, whether that's K to 12 or higher education.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, okay. I am more of a blue collar type of guy, right? And the reason why I would say that I am now highly critical of, let's say, higher education, especially in college, is because you have the debt ratio, right? The amount of the student loan that you get, and based on the field that you may study, you came out and let's say, okay, I think school, especially college, has been highly indoctrinated with, let's say, Marxism sort of ideology.
Okay, I got a lot to say about that, but okay.
So now it's actually a good topic. So I want to hear your perspective on that, because you are in that field. So what do you say to that comment?
So that's a pretty common right-wing talking point that I've heard since literally I was in high school. The reality is that when you go to higher education, it comes from like the medieval era. So the whole point of it is to kind of expand your minds to different kind of arguments. So it's not the professor's obligation for them to force their worldview on you. And there's literally is no like correlation between somebody coming into college with like conservative views and totally switching over. Now, one thing we do know about higher education is that it does make people more liberal, but I'm not talking about liberal in the American political term. I'm talking about liberal in the definition that they expand their minds to hear more arguments. That's pretty much what I mean. But no, trust me, I went to college in South Carolina. And there's one thing I can assure you: conservative students remain conservative when they come in and they come out. I can assure you, South Carolina not getting more liberal.
No, because I mean, I think even though it's a conservative talking point, but I think there is still enough truth to that, because certain colleges, maybe in the north, there are certain conversations you can no longer have there.
Like what conversations? Because I mean, I don't know what type of schools you're talking about.
I think though he's talking about that. What's that school in Oregon? Green. What's it called? We're all the white kids. What's that? What?
Evergreen.
Yeah,
Evergreen College. Okay.
Yeah. That whole debacle when they kicked out that white professor out. Told him don't, because they're talking about the white supremacy, and I actually subscribed to his channel until lately. I am.
Oh, you talking about Jordan Peterson?
No,
he's in Canada.
No, Weinstein was it in Evergreen.
Yeah, Weinstein. Yeah, that's his name. Weinstein. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, and I actually unsubbed. I actually unsubbed from him. When he tried to form a political party late 2020, I said that was the most ridiculous thing he ever thought of. I'm like, that was just stupid. I mean, if you're going to form a political party, form one like 2 years before the election, not during the summer of the election. It was dumb because you don't going to get like 2-3 states. But anyway, yeah, Weinstein was the professor in the Evergreen School, and then
Weinstein's a liberal.
Yeah, he was a liberal, and then there was another thing in Hampton University. No, not Hampton. There was another. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about something else. Then there was something in Missouri. I mean, I don't know if you remember that. You remember that what happened in Missouri about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, you're talking about the student protests?
Yeah, the student protests. I mean,
it was just the constant protesting of like conservative speakers. So they couldn't. They just kept getting kicked out of campuses, so they couldn't even speak, even though.
That happened in like Berkeley at IU. We had a protest when Charles Murray came.
Down, the segregation that is being pushed by some of the colleges is kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, and that is exactly my point, because like, look, both conservatism and liberalism, they are both it's like a interesting dynamic, right? Because either, too far in either direction is not good. Because I remember when, let's say, we used to have like the church used to bash, let's say, gay marriage and all of that stuff, so on and so forth, right? Or like being very nasty to, let's say, the LGBT community. But at the same time, now the reverse of, let's say, that you walking around and somebody have to, like, you have to believe in, let's say, 50 different pronoun, or otherwise that makes you a bigot or something like that. So it's like, where is, like, the conversation that needs to have like a somewhat in the middle? It's very hard to have. Whereas, like, at some point, if, let's say, conservative were the bigot at the time, and then now we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and then now it's like it goes to the total complete opposite, and it's like, dude, like, can we have a conversation like me and Aaron we're having right now? And it's very hard to do that, because it's like, it's this whole dynamic of divide and conquer, instead of actually try to figure out who the real culprit is in our society.
Both of them. Both parties are perpetuating the same shit. Pardon my French, I'm a little vulgar.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, man. If you watch David Carroll's last video, now let's just say, I know I'm a follower, well, quote unquote follower of David Carroll. That last video he did. Now I know, though, he's the godfather of the Black Manosphere. He said a lot of crazy shit. But if you watch his last video when he talked about the race hustlers, he wasn't just, I know the Avatar showed Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, but he also had Candace Owens. He also had Brandon Tatum on there, and he's right, because you have race hustlers
On both sides.
On both sides. Every time when a black person gets shot, you see Al Sharpton coming on TV. Then on the other side, you see Brandon Tatum coming out on the other side, and both of them are making money. And that's why, though, I said, that's why when that trial was over, the Derek, I forgot what's his last name, the cop that killed
Chauvin.
The Derek Chauvin trial was over. All you hear is the drones of so-called black leaders coming, pushing themselves into front of the camera to make some special speech about, we gonna do this and this is a good day. Woo, woo, woo. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, where was y'all when Bolt and John got when Amber Geiger got sentenced?
Yep.
So you know what? That is my main criticism when it comes to this whole the police scenario. Well, go ahead, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Right.
BJ.
Because when Aaron Geiger got sentenced, you didn't see Benjamin Crump. And I'm gonna say this right now. When Al Sharpton sit there and say, "Well, here's the Attorney General of the black people, Benjamin Crump," and I'm like, you just announced Benjamin Crump as the Attorney General for all black people in America? Wow. And I'm like, y'all just made George Floyd's death into a mockery. Never mind about the family. The family has every right to celebrate or grieve or get through the process, right?
Yep.
But to see Keith Ellison and Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump get on front of the TV, Black Lives Matter getting in front of the TV and doing X, Y, and Z, I'm sitting like, it's like, though, they don't care about George Floyd. All this is one thing.
You want to know what they care about? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is the one thing. Like, I don't have any sympathy for Chauvin at all. I believe he should have gotten the charge of manslaughter. But when they actually charged him with third degree, because they claimed that the arrest itself is an assault, that's a really dangerous precedent.
Not true.
Because now, if you have a very, very very greedy lawyer, they will start chasing anyone that's arrested by police and charging
Right.
them an assault.
Right. So
Which
yeah.
Cruz is just rubbing his hands like, yes, thank God, ooh, I'm gonna be rich.
See,
Right.
I think my issue with this whole thing, right, is like, okay, like you mentioned with when Jean's when Jean the officer, that lady that actually killed
Amber Geiger,
yeah, it's like, it's almost as if, like, if you don't fit the black man stereotype, and then you, let's say something bad happened to you by the police, your death is not gonna have the same weight as someone like, let's say, as what's his name,
George Floyd, or
yeah, as
Oscar
George
Grant.
Floyd, or exactly, and that's my problem, because, okay, let's say that, okay, something, don't, God forbid, I don't want nothing happen to you, exposing Manosphere, right? So exposing Manosphere come across, okay, you are educated, right? You have you should be someone that black people should be aspired to be, right? Educated black person, right? Critical thinking and all that stuff, right? Let's say, God forbid, something happened to you, something bad happened to you with a police officer. You think they would have the same level of anger that they did with, let's say, someone like George Floyd? No, they won't, because you do not represent what it's like to be a black person or a black man. It's almost like the negative stereotype is the representation of what a black man should be, and I have a problem with that.
It's like somebody's crafting a movie. I don't know if you agree with me or not. It's like somebody is making a movie. It's like like somebody's writing a screenplay as events is still going.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Which is why probably, like, as soon as the verdict came out, all of a sudden all these brutality cases started coming up, one after the other, after the other, after the other.
So, all right. So, what is so Aaron? So, what is your perspective when it comes to, let's say, defund the police?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I think people hear that, they think that's mean taking money, funding away from the police departments, but it really just means allocating resources. Because I think, like, what was it like in New York City? I forgot what percentage of the city's budget went to the police department.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then why did they choose that slogan? See,
Because it's not the onus of. Yeah, because it's not the onus of activists to pretty much like when they do what's it called, when they kind of test political waters on a term. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have some anodyne process of like terms, because that's not what activists are for. That's different from politics, actually. Like
that defund literally means to defund. So when you use that slogan in particular, you're going to face a lot of criticism.
But activism's not politics, though. At the end of the day,
I mean, I understand that, but the thing is, like, activism control politics.
Well, it tries to influence politics. Really, that's the main point of being an activist.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna give you an example, right? We all know that the road to hell is paved with good intention. So you might say that, all right, well, when we mean defund the police, we mean the allocating the fund of the police into something different, right? So it sounds awesome, right? If that's the case, then yeah, no problem. But at the same time, we know how a lot of we know how politics work, where when they try to implement something, right, and then when it backfires, instead of actually removing that element, they actually implement it. They actually keep it and just add more stuff on top of it. So therefore, for instance, we have was it California or no, not California, Minneapolis, right? When they they defunded the police and all that stuff, and then when crime skyrocketed, and then they had to now try to rehire a whole bunch of police officers, and it's like, dude, it doesn't make any sense. Where there's a correlation between the lack of police in the neighborhood that needs it the most, versus now when we don't have the police to somewhat like kind of like deter people from committing these crimes, because most criminals are they are opportunists, and if they can actually get away with the things that they're doing, obviously they would actually get it done and stuff like that. So I understand the retraining of the police department, or actually get rid of some of the laws that makes it easier for police to harass people. than to just like cut it off and try to make it seem like, see, we're the good guy, even though even though our own rules is the reason why police are harassing y'all, but we make it seem like the police are the bad guy, throw them under the bus.
Well, I would say so. Wait, what's I about to say? Yeah, police departments react to crime. They don't deter crime. What deter crimes are like, schools, things that probably give people in poor communities like an opportunity. Not that I think sometimes I do agree with the former police chief of Dallas. I forgot his name, but he said that there's just been too much responsibilities thrown on the police in recent decades. School, if a kid acts up in school, send the police, and there's a history behind that too that I don't want to belabor because that's just like I'll go on a long tangent. Yeah, police officers have to deal with like people going through mental health crisis. It's just that the police, you can only train a police officer to do so much, and in our modern society, we kind of expect them to react to everything and then get upset when things go wrong.
Yeah. So then what level of personal accountability that actually needs to be taking place and not just the police? Because I do understand, yeah, some officers needs to be held accountable when they mess up, but it comes back to culture as well. That's when that comes back to the culture. It's like, what level of accountability that you feel like we need to actually take, or responsibility that we need to take in order to actually make it easier to at least meet them halfway.
I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Because if you're talking about culture, are you talking about like incidents that are captured on camera, or are you just talking about policing in general?
Well, police in general, right? So in the African American culture, right, we are very anti-authority.
Yeah, there's a long history why, but okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, granted, I can understand that part, right? But now, in certain instances, that I see cops as in like it is a necessary evil, right? I don't see officers as like they're good or they're bad. I see them as like they're doing their job, right? But in what way that we can actually there's a balance of where people can actually understand what purposes like police serve in their community versus to like straight up being disrespectful towards the police force or the idea of just policing as a whole.
I don't know. That's a good question because there's like a long history of distrust between police and African American communities. Police culture is very like insular. It's kind of really resistant to change, and within African American history community, there's such a long history of like police harassment, and also a long history of being under police. Actually, prior to 1960, police officers did not actually police Black communities, and for a lot of racist reasons. Actually, it's a little unfortunate. Even to this day, like in Milwaukee, if you live in a Black neighborhood, you call the cops, they actually take longer to get to you than in a white neighborhood. No, that's true. We've seen that actually in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, like the mistrust has always been there since time immemorial.
Yeah, since like 19th century, really.
Yeah, yeah. So especially in New York, when you have, the rivalry between the Irish immigrants versus the blacks, the Black population, that still breeds into that New York, or should I say north and northeast. Like some people say Boston is one of the racist cities in America. Actually, I kind of somewhat agree that Boston is one. A lot of people say that because of the because a lot of the police force, there's a lot of nepotism within the police force in the upper Atlantic seaboard, where you have Irish families being in the police for generations. Oh, my dad was a cop. My grandpa was a cop. My great grandfather was a cop. You hear them saying that, and it's nepotism, it's generation after generation, and then
In
some
Connecticut,
of the rivalries, huh? Some of those ethnic. Say what?
In Connecticut, it's like that too.
Right. So yeah, in Connecticut, yeah, I'm talking about the New England, New York, everything from Philly up until Maine. You have that Irish immigrant rivalry against any other group, and Black people are one of those groups. I know I'm not trying to be no anti-Irish now, but I'm just saying, that you're hearing the generational generations of families having this one a profession. A lot of that stuff has been passed down.
So do you think like maybe if we actually have more blacks or Latino in the police force, that would somewhat deter that mindset? Or maybe there would be like more trust?
I don't know about that.
No, I actually believe you got to get rid of the militarization. You got to demilitarize the police force.
Yeah.
Because ever since 9/11,
11, yep.
Ever since the Patriot Act, rather, you have an uptick of
Well, the government needs to get rid of their old military equipment before they give it to
It's
them.
actually before that. I got a book on my bookshelf called The Rise of the Military Cop?
I think that
Right?
was in 1992. That was in the 1992 bank robbery, right?
Well, I'm thinking of the book actually. He starts with the so he starts in the 1960s actually, and especially the war on drugs, which you said it escalated. But in particular, like like Los Angeles, where they literally had tanks and battering rams that rammed into people's homes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this started way before 9/11 in terms of the police, with the Vietnam War, really, with the police become militarized.
Right. You're right about the air, but yeah, but that every time somebody is saying that during the Ronald Reagan era, talking about it doesn't exist ever since 9/11, since the Patriot Act, it just now proved to everybody or most people that the police force is mostly demilitarized. I mean, they're having weapons that why you got them type of weapons for? I mean, you got tanks and not tanks, but AE tracks,
It's very interesting, right? Because like, let's say in England and places like that, right? We kind of look at police officers as in like I think civil servant.
Yeah.
Whereas but here in the United States, it's more like the image of police officers. They're more like, let's say
they're stronger.
So they are not your subject, you are their subject.
Yeah.
And I think that is that one criticism that I would have when it comes to that, because like there is this level of assholeness when it comes to cops.
I got stories. Of that. That's why when you said something about the black cop, I was kind of laughing. I'm like, dude.
Well, I have a question for you guys, right? To elaborate more on the militarization of the police. Do you guys think the police are quickly becoming a standing army?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll say like in South Texas, yes. In South Texas, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
The border part, like the border counties, yes.
Mm. So, okay. So, what was the stories you were gonna tell us, Aaron?
No, I was actually just going to show this. Yeah, see, this is the book I was talking about.
Okay. The Rise of the Warrior Cops.
Yeah. I said military cop, it's warrior cop. Oh no, because we said something about like the black officers or Latino officers. I was like, no, because in my experience, sometimes those officers are like worse because they kind of play like this token role, so they don't want to seem as being soft in front of their white superiors. And I remember going to Indianapolis Public School district office, doing some research, and I don't know what it was, but this cop just had the worst attitude when I walked into the door. He was a black guy too. He kind of treated me like I was like a criminal, actually, when I just asked a basic question.
Dude, I mean, it's like I'm trying to figure it out. Like, how do we find a way to de-escalate the situation where, cops become less assholes, and people don't actually take advantage of the fact that, like, to continue on with the rampage of crime or criminal activities and stuff like that. Like, where? I don't know what's the solution, man, because the only thing I could think of is like, okay, there's discipline at home that can actually curve some of the things from the public's perspective, from the public's, to kind of curve down on the criminal activities from the public perspective. Now it comes from when it comes to, let's say, the political aspect as well, you have prison for profit. That's messed up. So then that kind of incentivizes to create more laws to actually create more criminals. Where's the solution?
I don't know. It's pretty hard. I have there's a person I know writing his dissertation on, like, I think it was policing in Philadelphia or something like that. And yeah, he looked at like riots in the 1960s and 70s, and he found out that a lot of time when cops were called into the neighborhood, they were actually called by black residents, pretty much trying to alleviate a disruption of peace. So I mean, so even when people are trying to do the right thing, it can still kind of escalate, actually. So that's like an unfortunate reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why in Poland people don't call the police.
It's kind of hard, in the United States. Usually that's people
resolve the issues on their own. Like, to call the police is like the last resort. When there's, if there's a death, if it's already gone that far, then they'll call.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask you guys, right? What is your perspective now when it comes to gun control and or gun laws? Well, Big J, you want to go first? What is your perspective when it comes to gun laws?
I'm as a black man, I'm against gun control, because what's the use of disarming people when you got police that's killing you? I'm just saying. I mean, that's the way. But let me answer that question you asked, Aaron. My thing is, if you really want to solve the problem, two things needs to happen, or multiple things have to happen. First of all, you have to get rid of 40% of all the laws. I think like what happened to Eric Gardner. Loose cigarettes. Really, we want to arrest people for having loose, cigarettes.
Loose cigarettes, yep.
Yeah. So laws like that has to be abolished or voted, repealed.
Yeah.
Laws like that have to be repealed, not to give the police the excuse to do that. And the second thing, because though there is the militarization of the police, and also you got a lot of assholes who are in the police force. First thing on that one, I think the problem with the police is that they allowed too many people who went to Iraq and Afghanistan into their police force, and those people still have PSTD and what may have you, because like it's quicker for a person to go to war and come home within the next week. Unlike during World War II, it took them 2 months to get back home. So, or during Vietnam, it took people 2 weeks, a week and a half to get back to stateside after being in Vietnam. So my thing is, though, they need to slow down on military people, military veterans in the police force. And second, and another thing about the assholes, there needs to be a sack. Police officers need to be need to have some counseling before and during their service. Humanitarian psychologists, going to them, talking to them during their service. It's kind of like that police officer that committed suicide in Louisiana. I don't know if you remember that police officer.
I do.
No, I don't. It's interesting, right? Because even though we talk a lot about the reform of the police department, right? But we don't talk much about, let's say, the union of the police department, because being on a union job, it makes it very hard for you to lose your job, very hard for you to get fired. So do you think that, part of, the, getting rid of the bad officers is that the fact that, like, their job security means that, like, they don't really have to have a certain level of professionalism
when they cross the line.
Yeah, exactly. Not having to lose their job when they cross the line, as well as, with the article that we read, is like, if you have a certain IQ level, then that kind of disqualify you from being a police officer.
Well, I mean, that's an old article, so I'm not sure if that still applies.
Yeah, so I never heard of police departments having an IQ test. I
don't
think that's something they do.
like, I'm not sure, somewhere between 2011 and 2016, there was a lawsuit, I believe in Connecticut, where the gentleman sued the police department because he felt he was being disqualified from becoming a police officer because IQ was too high. That actually happened. I'm not sure if that's been changed since then. So, because it's been years.
So yeah, then what do you think about like let's say the unionization of all these government jobs?
Of all government, you talking about just general government jobs?
Well, yeah, general, things. Okay, let's say yeah, it's like if you don't perform to the rate that is okay. Look, I know with capitalism, right, can get a bad rap, but there are certain aspects when it comes to capitalism that actually makes sense, because if you don't have a certain amount of performance, it goes to the that directly affect the bottom line of that company, then they get rid of your ass. But whereas in certain government jobs or whatnot, then because it's not about profit, I mean it shouldn't be, then you have this being unionized, so then therefore it kind of helps not just the good officers but also the bad as well.
Okay, so you're talking about like local, state, federal, or just like certain level of government?
I'm not sure which one you.
Okay,
just
because you said
pick one.
unionization of federal government jobs. I'm like, because I mostly worked in the public sector, so I'm like, well, which level of government are you talking? Level of government you're referring to.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
Not all
So
states,
let's say
states allow
officers,
unions.
yeah. Now all states allow union for their offices and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not anti-union because they do protect the workers' rights, but I do understand that they have a lot of issues. I mean, don't get me wrong. Police unions are actually quite very powerful politically. That's one reason why they exist. Because you go against a union, literally, the entire police force might go against like a mayor, which happens frequently. I know recently that happened in New York City with Bill de Blasio, and the New York City Police Department kind of turned their back on him in a symbolic gesture. It does make it very hard to fire a bad police officer. I mean, in fact, there was a shooting in Milwaukee in 2016. I forgot the officer's name, but he met somebody in a bar, and the guy recalled that he was joking with him, but told him like, he has a job where he can pretty much do anything and get away with it. That's how he's referring to his job as a police officer. Mind you, this was a guy who grew up in like North Milwaukee, so he was like part of the community that he grew up in the community that he policed, but still like kind of thought poorly about the people that he policed it there.
Yeah.
Okay, and Big J?
Well,
the same question.
Yeah, so what do you think of maybe needs to be like a reform when it comes to the unionized, or union of police officers, like police unions and stuff like that, not just police officers.
Union. They need to be abolished, or at least have like a 5-year moratorium on the police unions. But I also think though, when it comes to, I'm gonna use Philadelphia as a prime example, right? When it comes to the reason why though there are higher taxes is because of unions. It doesn't cross the board when it comes to union jobs with the government. Jobs that are unionized is the ones I'm talking about. That's why you have higher taxes, because the government, the people are paying more and more money to the government, so the government can pay the union, the people who the unions, the people who are the government employees who are unionized. That's why though you have deficits in budgets being in the red because of that. I think there should be a 5-year moratorium on unions, especially police unions, especially one out there in New York and in Boston. They need to be either outlawed or put into a box for the next 4 or 5 years. That's what I think.
Art, before you move on, I would like to I did find an article about the lawsuit. I was off, okay, about the years, because this was actually in like 2000.
Oh, okay,
but hold on, let me read a little bit of the article because I find it interesting. This was in New London, Connecticut. A man whose bid to become a police officer was rejected after he scored too high on an intelligence test. It has.
Sorry, hold on. Let me mute mine real quick. For some reason, it's actually.
and has lost an appeal in his federal lawsuit against the city. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New York upheld a lower court's decision that the city did not discriminate against Robert Jordan because the same standards were applied to everyone who took the test. He claimed that it was discrimination because you can't maintain no more control over your basic intelligence. Jordan, a 49-year-old college graduate, took the exam in 96 and scored 33 points, the equivalent of an IQ of 125. But New London police interviewed only candidates who scored 20 to 27, on the theory that those who scored too high could get bored with police work and leave soon after undergoing costly training. Most cops just above normal. The average score nationally for police officers is 21 to 22, the equivalent of an IQ of 104 or just a little bit above average. Jordan alleged his rejection from the police force was discrimination. He sued the city, saying his civil rights were violated because he was denied equal protection under the law. But the U.S. District Court found that New London had shown a rational basis for the policy. In a ruling dated August 23rd, the Second Circuit agreed. The court said the policy might be unwise, but was a rational way to reduce job turnover. So it was a long time ago, but it kind of shows that maybe they're hiring people that aren't that smart.
Oh, that's always been the case, actually. No, seriously. Like a lot of police departments down south, sometimes you don't even really need a high school diploma; just need a GED. Right. It's never been like an intellectually rigorous job. Policing has never been known for that.
So
I assume
go ahead, man.
Hire people with high intelligence because people with high intelligence tend to not always comply with the laws.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same reason why, I couldn't join the military at my age because I'd be kind of considered too old and educated for it.
Yeah, well, you could become an officer.
Yeah, you can do that.
Like a major in the military.
I mean, it's like, put it this way, right? I think the rational, look, you have to be somewhat irrational. Listen, you have to be somewhat irrational to actually running towards gunfire and to take down your enemy, whatever the case may be, right? So I guess that's like, the whole high school stereotype where, the jocks, it tends to be the stupid one, but they actually tends to do some of the, most risky stuff.
Some courage requires stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. Some level of courage requires a level of stupidity.
Well, looks like Michael Wood Jr., the former Baltimore police officer who got a lot of exposure after the Baltimore riots in 2015. He was kind of talking on a YouTube show about why people go into the police force. Most people do it just because they want to do good. But, there's some people who, they just want to seek thrill or adventure. Some people were bullied in high school, so they kind of want to get back at people. That is a reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some people just want to serve their community. He left because he was disillusioned, but it's various reasons why people go into the police force. But no, it doesn't require much to go in there, though, to be totally honest.
I know growing up in Connecticut, I just heard a lot of people who have police officers as like uncles, grandfathers, or fathers. It's just something that we do in the family.
Oh, okay. It depends. And in the New Yorker published an article with what's the police officer in the Michael Brown incident? I forget his name.
I don't know.
Darren something, I think. So yeah, he
Darren Wilson.
Yeah, he only became a police officer because it was a recession-proof job. It's interesting read, actually. If you read it, he did that just because, just to have something that's like financially stable. It was sent to a community that he actually never visited before growing up, which if you've been to St. Louis, that's not shocking whatsoever.
Yeah, but see, I have an issue with that. I have an issue with the system where you send police officers that don't live in the neighborhood to work there. Because in my country, that doesn't happen. You live in this small town, you work in this small town. You live in the big city, you work in the big city. So everybody kind of knows you.
Yeah, that's the issue all across the country. Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, the majority of police force doesn't even live in the city. New York City, 75% of the police officers live in Staten Island. I mean, you can almost go to any community, you can find that. I know Chicago, they have to live in the city of Chicago, but that don't necessarily mean they live in those neighborhoods that they police.
So do you think it would be the dynamic between police and citizen would be slightly different if there was some commonality between them?
It can help. I mean, I don't know if it like this. I don't know if it's like a solution, but I think it would actually help for people to be familiar with the community. Because I mean, you know, our cities are so segregated. So you know, you sent somebody.
You can also understand the context a little bit better of the situation.
Yeah, I think we have familiarity. You do understand the context a little better. Not to mention, you also can interact with people you probably didn't that you grew up with.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm sorry, but I also think that, like, you know, we don't really have communities anymore. We have neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's changing, unfortunately, especially gentrification. Like the sense of like community is, I think, it's kind of eradicating gradually.
Yeah, because it's like you mentioned earlier, Aaron, is that, like, you know, upward mobility is like, as soon as you have money, you don't live in the same class of, you know, you go to where your money is, you know, where your level of tax bracket is at. So if you are a police officer, let's say, you know, you most likely middle class, then you less likely gonna live in a working class environment.
Well, then be a police officer in the middle neighborhood where you live in, you know? I mean, come on. What about you, Big J? What do you think? Do you think if the police officers came from the same community, the familiarity would help the interaction?
Yeah. I pretty much agree with Aaron. This one. Yeah, if people actually know who their police officers were, I think there would be trust in
I think in this environments it may become that the police officer would be, you know, almost like the mentor and the father figure again for the young kids because they see him every day.
Oh yeah, there's oh boy, because I know this comes up in my own research, so that's a theory people have propagated for like 50 years.
Yeah, but Aaron, I'm gonna get off of here. So thank y'all for having me on.
Okay, thank you for coming on, Big J. That was awesome.
All right, dude, it was awesome chatting with you, man. We gotta reach out to you because we need to, like, you know, talk in private at some point.
Yeah,
or send you an email. Me and Siri will send you an email.
Okay, all right then. I'll see y'all later.
See ya. Yeah, I won't be here for too long either, but I definitely want to make this point about the whole, like, you know, kids interacting with cops. So in my own research, that comes up in the 1960s. So the idea of like a school resource officer. So the context is like, okay, there's urban riots in the community. There's a lot of anti-police sentiment. So the idea is like, okay, well, we put police officers in the schools. They can literally, kids at a young age are malleable. So if they have a positive view of police officer, it was believed that would continue into adulthood. Of course, there's a lot of problems with that. But for one, they don't only interact with a police officer when they're in school. They also interact with them when they're out, when they're walking home or going to school. And sometimes those interactions are quite negative. And, you know, and you know, kids' worldview on the profession can change. I mean, just because a cop's in like a middle school doesn't mean kids are going to have like positive perceptions of police officers when they get older.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah. It was a theory. I mean, I see people still say that now, and I literally have like a quote from like a few years ago and a quote from like 1968 of people saying the same exact thing. Like, well, you put police in the schools, and like the kids will learn.
Yeah, I don't agree with the policing in the schools, but I mean, like, if you know, like if there was more the police officer, if it was like a regular, no, because then that's where the corruption would sit in and things like that. Never. I just answered my own question.
See, I think, like, okay, the thing that I talk about, right? I tend to you know, look at it for like my own personal experience. Like, as far as, you know, police officers here in the United States, like, my interaction with them hasn't actually been negative. It has been more positive than actually negative. So then my view upon them is somewhat all right. I know there are cops that are assholes, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and therefore I can understand that just by having a quick conversation with someone, I can tell, be like, all right, you know, this guy's a dick. And given the opportunity, they would actually enact that level of authority or being somewhat authoritarian and stuff like that, you know. And I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Yeah, and I'm a pretty easygoing guy. So that's why, like, sometimes you know, some of the conservative talking point where it's like they go out of their way to excuse police behavior. I'm against that. you know. And so it's like it's having to find a balance to be like, dude, these cops, a lot of them are just drones, right? So instead of actually just go attacking them directly, and we are ignoring the policies which they are followed that empowers them. Let's focus on some of the laws that needs to be removed from the books, and actually make their jobs to be strictly focused on like things that are actually important than just harassing people, try to find crime instead of actually, that's my perspective when it comes to police officers.
No, that's not what former, what was it? I think Ed something. I'm really bad when I can't remember names. Former police commissioner of Baltimore City. He said the same thing. Police officers at the end of the day are agents of the state, so they pretty much are reacting to local policies. But
Yeah,
because they're the most visible, they're the ones that receive the most vitriol when
yeah,
it comes to anger. But at the end
yeah,
of the day, it's really about policy. You got to go to like your local, your city hall and talk
yeah,
about that.
and talk about that exactly. All right. With that being said, dude, it was awesome having you on, man. I
Oh,
appreciate
okay.
it.
Yeah, I know you guys been going on for a long time. I don't like I said, I normally don't do this, but it's been a pretty slow day for me. So I'm like, okay, I'll just hop on a bit.
Hey man, listen, if I don't do a live stream often, but whenever I'm on and stuff like that, and then you just hit me up, be like, hey, can I get in and stuff? And
Yeah, okay.
I think I still got your number and stuff. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, for
It's
for
a
coming
pleasure.
through. I appreciate it. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate you coming through, man, and everybody else. Expose the Manosphere, everybody.
Oh, bye, everybody.
All right. Bye, man.
All right, everyone. Bye.
All right, Siri, let's get out of here. This was an awesome conversation, man. I liked it. All right.
Oh.
Bye, guys. Peace. All right. So I'll just call you in a bit. All right, babe?
I
All
didn't
right.
show that we're live.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.